Blaine Fowler, host of this year's Y Awards, and BYU TV football analyst, is back with us. Let's begin with the Y Awards. This was big for you. It was like hosting the Grammys.
It was awesome. And I got to tell you, so many times during the night, I thought to myself, where else could you do this type of a program, where the athletes are presenters, where they come up.
Look, you're in a tux.
I know. It's a big-time dress-up thing, but I was so proud of BYU's athletes and the way they conduct themselves, and really proud of the big guys up front for BYU on the defensive line, along with Foodie from the volleyball team and how they danced. And great night. Great opportunity to recognize all the good things that the athletes had done this past season. And to listen to our athletes in their acceptance speeches, so articulate. They did such a terrific job. And I said it the other night, BYU has the best looking group of athletes I've ever seen, male and female. They are handsome, they are beautiful, and they're articulate. And you can be proud if you're a BYU fan of the way they conducted themselves the other night. It was really fun.
You can see the Y Awards May 10th here on BYU TV. Look forward to seeing that. All right, just because we can, and we have 3 more True Blues left in our season, we thought we'd slice up the football schedule and dive into September and let that be our focus for tonight. And we begin with that home opener against Washington State, September 1. Yeah,
this is a really interesting matchup because Mike Leach is the new head coach at Washington State. He's got ties to BYU from back in the old days, and he will come into Provo with a wide open type of offense. They will throw it all over the place. He's got a great wide receiver in Marquise Wilson, who is a big-time player. They've got their quarterback back, who started 2 years ago. He sat out a lot of last year with injuries in Jeff Toole, but he's a veteran guy. So I expect them to come in with a huge, wide-open offensive game. Mike Leach is an attack guy, and that'll be a fun game for the opener. And not much you can do to scout them.
They may throw it 80 times.
Yeah, they could do that. Yeah. And how do you scout a team with a coach that you haven't seen in the past at Washington State? So that'll be a fun one.
When they play Weber State at home in week 2, they will see a coach that they have seen before in John L. Smith.
Yeah, John L. Smith, former coach at Utah State, very creative. He's not afraid to throw some trickeration in there. They've got to replace their starting quarterback from last season. They're going to rely on their defense this season. But I think whenever BYU plays a old 1AA type team, they should dominate the line of scrimmage. Weber State will have some good players up front, but they won't have the depth, size, and strength on the offensive and defensive lines.
3rd game in the state of Utah to start out, but first road game as we move right on up to Rice-Eccles Stadium and the rivalry match on the 17th.
This is a redemption game for BYU. They certainly cannot turn the football over 7 times and have a chance. And for Utah, they'll welcome back Jordan Wynn. They hope that he can stay healthy. And this may be the best group of wide receivers that BYU will face all season long, an explosive team. You think about Devontae Christopher, Drez Anderson back again this year, Reggie Dunn, Matthews. It's a very explosive group of receivers. BYU will have to keep them in front if they're going to have a chance against Utah.
Now we're over to Boise against Boise State on the 22nd. And the Broncos are going to have a brand new quarterback for the first time in 4 years.
Yeah, this is post Kellen Moore, and nobody knows what to expect. And of course, we said, what are they going to do when Ryan Dinwiddie graduates? And then we said, what are they going to do when Zane Zabransky graduates? Well, they weren't Kellen Moore. They were a great quarterback. Kellen Moore, the winningest quarterback in the history of college football. So I will really be anxious to see what they can do. They have great athletes. They've recruited well, and it's a program now. This isn't a one-hit wonder. Chris Peterson does a terrific job, and playing up there, it is a very good home field advantage. BYU is going to have to bring their A game, even without Kellen Moore at the helm for Boise State.
Talk about last year, September was so critical for the rest of the year, and this September is the same, finishing up with Hawaii, 5 games in the opening month.
Well, and another intriguing coaching matchup. Now Norm Chow comes back, and an opportunity to play against another former BYU coach who's very familiar. This is the one that's most interesting to me because they're making dramatic changes. This has been a run-and-shoot football team that throws it 70 times a game. Norm Chow is going to go back to a pro-style offense with a fullback and a tailback and tight ends. I don't even know if they have any tight ends on the roster at this place. They always have talented wide receivers. They always get after you defensively. And BYU put a thumping on them this last season, so they'll have revenge on their minds. But you don't know if by that point in the season they'll have been able to make the transition to a pro-style offense. They're doing a completely new defense. So it'll be a very interesting matchup with Hawaii.
Next week we will delve into October. All right, quick thoughts on these changes coming to the Marriott Center. You and I have called a lot of games together over the years, but it will be different come this basketball season.
Yeah, and the big question is, the students are upset right now because they're going to get moved behind the basket.
They went from the 50-yard line to the end zone.
But remember, in some of the great home courts in all of college basketball, the student section sits behind the basket, and they're going to put the students behind the basket where the visiting team will shoot in the second half. They can have a bigger impact on the game there. You know, the Show at San Diego State sits behind the basket. Right. The Spectrum up in Logan, one of the great home courts in all of college basketball, their students sit behind the basket. So it'll be different sight lines, but I think the students can still have a big impact and maybe a bigger impact on the game. And I think the lower bowl needed to be redone. It was crowded down there. There's going to be more chair seats. The attendance will come down a little bit because they can't, you know, the attendance records that were set with Jimmer here, they'll never be broken now because it doesn't seat 22,700 anymore.
That's right. And soon that mustard color is going to go away.
It'll be
I think
all
the blue will eventually.
There's some really good things that are coming from this. The thing I'm hearing, you know, most is the students are going to be mad. Well, they need to do their jobs and distract teams under the basket next season.
All right, Blaine, good job.